Welcome to Battle Companies Season 1, Episode 10. In this episode, Durins Folk will be fighting against Moria, and the Dead of Dunharrow will meet the Warg Riders. The war aftermath for the battle companies will be shown at the end of each battle. The updates to the warbands from last time can be seen from 40 minutes 20 seconds into the previous video. Now, I will go over today's scenario and then the battles will begin. Enjoy! This is the scoreboard from the last round.
Today's scenario will be secure the area. Both sides are seeking to lay claim to the objective and must not only fight their way to it, but also defend it once there. Once one battle company has been broken, the game might suddenly end. And at the end of each turn after this condition has been met, roll a d6. On a 1 or a 2, the game ends. Otherwise, the battle continues for another turn. To win in this scenario, one battle company has to have at least twice as many models within 3 inches of the objective than the opponent. Special rules: Wild Search. At the end of your move phase, roll a d6 for each of your models not on the battlefield and consult the chart below. Heroes may use might to alter the roll up or down. Models can't charge in the turn that they arrive but otherwise act normally. Roll for each model separately, deploy the model, then roll for the next one. Models yet to arrive count as being on the battlefield for the purpose of determining if your force is broken. On a roll of a 1, the model does not arrive, and on a roll of a 6, you can choose which board edge to deploy your model. On a roll of 2, 3, 4, or 5, it is the western, eastern, southern, or northern board edge you have to deploy the model.
This is the board we are playing on today. The center objective is this well, as you can see over here. The battle companies are running low on water and need to refill their water skins. That is why this well is so important.
The first battle will be between Moria and Durins Folk.
The first priority goes to Durins Folk. Durins Folk will start their deployment, and we will count this board edge over here as the northern one.
Gando and Goff has to roll their old battle wounds, and Gando gets a 3 so he can join this battle, and Goff gets a 4 so he can also participate.
And here we have the dwarves deployment. We have 4 dwarves coming in from this side, the western board edge. And we have 3 more from the southern board edge. And 4 more over here from the eastern board edge. And 1 lonely dwarf in the northern board edge over here. Gando was the only dwarf that didn't arrive this turn.
Moria got to deploy the cave troll and 3 more goblins from the eastern board edge and 2 more from the southern one, deploying in this side of the field to consolidate on the dwarves on this side. 6 of the goblins deployed from the northern board edge and surrounded poor Drudar. 4 of the goblins did not arrive yet, and we will have to roll for them later.
All of the dwarves moved their full distance, so they will not be shooting this shoot phase. But 1 goblin moved half move to be able to shoot at Drudar, needing 6s to hit. And he hits! 6s to wound? No. Sandri will throw his daggers at the Cassette guard, hitting on 5s because he moved. And he misses. The goblins got priority and ganged up on Drudar over here. 1 of the archers moved further up. These goblins moved in closer. The troll got into combat with a dwarf, and Sork and a friend also got into combat with the dwarves over here. Sandri is going to move into combat and throw his daggers on his way in, throwing on the Cassette guard, needing a 4-up. And he misses. And he moved into combat with these 2 dwarves. Realizing that this flank is weak, Kassa, Trubo, and another dwarf moved in closer to the action. The other 4 dwarves moved in closer to the center of the board. I totally forgot, but at the end of Moria's movement phase, 2 of the goblins came in from the southern board edge, and 1 come from the eastern, trying to reinforce the goblin ranks. They still miss 1 archer. Maybe he will come next turn. At the end of the dwarven movement phase, Gando arrived from the northern board edge. Realizing that this fight probably is lost over here, he chose to move up the middle. In the fight phase, we will start with the Cave Troll against Midzu, and the Cave Troll sets the bar at a 6, automatically winning the combat. Needing 3s to kill. And he gets 2. As Midzu only has 1 point of fate, he is dead. In the next fight, Sork and a goblin are fighting Goth. The goblins get 5. And the dwarf gets 4. Goth has no might, so he loses the fight. The goblins need 6s to wound, and they get nothing. But Sork will use a point of might to turn this 5 into a 6, if I can find it. Yes, a 6, which means Goth takes a wound, and he will need 2 fates. Can he save himself? Yes, he can. And the last fight over here, Sandri fights 2 dwarf, and Sandri sets the bar at a 3. And the dwarves, 2! Sandri will now make strikes, but he has an arm wound and cannot use his 2-handed weapon. So he will strike normally at a casted guard, and he needs 6s. No. And in this fight, Drudar will set the bar at a 1. And the goblins get, yep, well above 1. They got a 6, winning the fights. Drudar is trapped, and he gets 10 strikes against him, needing 6s to kill. And there is 3 6s, and he has only 1 fate point, so he is dead. In the next round, the dwarves got priority and moved in closer with these 4. These 3, realizing that the battle over here probably is lost, moved in to cluster together with the other dwarves. Gando continued his march southward, and these 2 dwarf retreated. Goth, having a leg wound, will not be able to retreat, so he will try to tie up the troll for 1 round, sacrificing himself for the greater good. But he needs to take a courage check, and he failed. So he has to take on the entire goblin force and the troll. Poor guy. In the goblin movement phase, these goblins moved up closer to join the action, and these 4 goblins went into the rocky outskirts, moving closer to Kaza and his crew. The troll went into combat with the Kazad guard, and Goth got surrounded by some goblins. And the last goblin entered the battlefield from the eastern board edge, making sure that he moved half distance to be able to shoot at Kaza over there. In the shooting phase, this goblin will shoot at Kaza, needing 6s to hit. No. And this goblin over here will take a cheeky shot at Gando, needing 6s, and he misses. In the combat phase, the troll is fighting a Kazad guard, and the troll sets the bar at a 5. And the Kazad guard gets a 6, but that is turned down to a 5. The Kazad guard loses on fight value, and the troll will make strikes, needing 4s to kill. And gets 2, so the Kazad guard is dead. In this fight over here, Goth will be shielding, and he gets a 4 and a 6. This means that he wins on fight value. The dwarves need to muster their forces and continued to gather towards the center of the board. Trubo moved half distance to be able to shoot, and Gando come closer to the well. And Goth had to charge one of the goblins because he couldn't get out because of the control zones. So he moved into combat with 1 goblin. In the movement phase, these goblins moved closer to the well, except for this one who stood still to be able to shoot at Gando. The troll moved into contact with a iron shield. These goblins are chasing down the fleeing dwarves. And this archer moved half distance to be able to shoot at Trubo, and the other goblins got into combat with Guff, trying to finish him off. Trubo is shooting at a goblin with bow over there, needing 5s to hit because he moved. And he gets 1 hit, and he has 1 free points of might when he shoots, so he makes that a 5, which means he has 2 hits. Needing 5s to wound, rerolling 1s because of Baruch Kazad. And he gets 1 5 and 1 6, so this goblin is dead. This goblin is shooting at Gando, needing a 5 to hit. And he hits. 6s to wound. He gets the 6. Fate roll. No, he takes a wound. Luckily he has 2, so he has 1 left. Actually, the goblin needs 6s by 4s to wound, so he needs a 4 here. And he doesn't get it. Lucky for Gando, he does not lose a fate or a wound. In this fight, the Iron Shield will be shielding, but he has a -1 because he's not supported by a foe spear. And he sets the bar at a 3, which is turned down to a 2. The troll gets 6, winning the fight. The troll has a strength of 6 and the Iron Shield a defense of 9, which means he will normally need 6s. But he has a 2-handed weapon, which means he will wound on 5s. Let's see if he can do it. And he gets 2 5s, so the Iron Shield is dead. In the next fight, Guff will be shielding and sets the bar at a 2. Sork and his friends gets 6, winning the fight. 10 attacks against Guff, and they wound on 6s, but Sandry has the backstabber rule, which means he will wound on 5s. So let's see if Guff can survive this. No, he can definitely not. So he is dead. The goblins got priority and moved into combat over here, and the troll went into combat with Kassa over here. The rest of them just moved closer. These goblins moved closer to the objective. The dwarves are vastly outnumbered now because they have taken too many casualties. They will play the objective and run towards the well. The one dwarf went into combat with the troll to help out Kassa, and Gando also moved in closer. The first combat is Trubo versus a goblin, and Trubo sets the bar at a 3, and the goblin gets a 2. 5s to kill? No. And the last fight, the troll sets the bar at a 5, and the dwarves get double 1s. How is this possible? The troll will strike at Kassa first, needing 4s, and he gets 1 5 and another 1 5, so he has taken 2 wounds. He has only 1 fate, so he is dead. And the Iron Shield on a 5, he also dies. Poor dwarves. All right, the dwarves are broken, and if the game ends now, no winner will be declared. So let's see the roll. On a 1 or a 2, the game ends. And it continues for another turn. The dwarves got priority and moved the majority of their forces within the 3 inches of the well. Trubo, however, will try to stop the troll from advancing and will take a terror check, and he gets a 2 and fails. He does not get a 2, he gets a 3, but it doesn't matter. I totally forgot this, but the dwarves have to take courage checks to see if they stay on the battlefield. Let's take Trubo, and he flees the battlefield. Grul, he is a hero. Yeah, he makes it, which means these 3 other dwarves also make it. And Gando, he has a courage of 5. Yeah, he is good. The goblins continued their move closer to the objective, because if the game ends now, they will lose the battle. Will the game end? No, 1 more turn. The dwarves got priority and starting with courage checks. We start with Gando, he needs a 5 up, he's good. What about Gruul, the Iron Guard? He makes it. That means that the dwarves are safe for now. The dwarves went into combat, desperately trying to hold the goblins off the objective. These goblins over here countered and trapped both the dwarves. They also got into combat over here, helping out the troll. But the other goblins didn't have enough move to get into combat. Rark over here has a free heroic combat every turn, so he will use that now. The goblin sets the bar at a 6, and the dwarf gets a 2, losing the fight. The goblins need 6s to kill, and they get 1/6. The dwarf is dead. Rark then gets a free move because he won the heroic combat and killed his opponent. So he will move into combat with this dwarf over here. Starting the regular combat phase, the troll against the dwarf with bow, and the troll gets a 4. And the dwarf gets a 1. 3s to kill, and he gets a 6 and a 5. So this dwarf is dead. Rark and a friend against a dwarf with two-handed weapon, and the goblins get a 3 high, and the dwarf gets a 2. Oh lord. Needing 6s to kill the dwarf. And he gets another 6. What's up with this game? Gando against 3 goblins, and Gando sets the bar at a 5. And the goblins get 4. Gando needs 5s to kill, and we go for the regular goblins. And he gets 2 kills, amazing! Both of these goblins are dead. And the last fight, Gruul will set the bar. He has an arm wound, so he has only 1 attack, and he gets a 2. And the goblins wins the fight with a 4. Doubling their strikes, 6 attacks, needing 6s to kill Gruul. And gets 2 6s. Gruul cannot win a fate roll with that, so he is dead. This is the end of the turn. On a 1 or a 2, the game ends. And it continues for another turn. The dwarves, or Gando, the last remaining dwarf, won the priority roll and elects to flee because of his healing herbs. He needs to take care of his troops. So he flees, and Moria is victorious. Alright, we will try something new this time and do the war aftermath straight after the first battle for the first battle companies participating in that fight. So let's start with the warriors' injury rolls. We'll of course using the healing herbs from Gando. Trubo also fled the battlefield, so he doesn't need to roll. So we have 6 warriors, and we got a +1 on each of these rolls. Starting from the left, we get a full recovery, and the next one, full recovery. Next one, oh, that's a full recovery as well. And the next one, 7, full recovery. And the 2 last ones, 5, that's a 6, so full recovery. And the Khazad Guard gets a full recovery. On to the heroes. Let's start with Guff on the left here. He gets 7, which is 8, which means he gets a full recovery. And he gets to heal 1 of his wounds. He has an old battle wound and a leg wound, and we'll take the leg wound. Next we have Mitsu. He gets a 9. That is just a scratch, and he will roll again to see if he can improve the results. He gets a 7, which is a full recovery. He had an arm wound, so he will heal that one. Drudar is next, and he gets an 8, which is a 9. It's just a scratch. He will roll again and gets a 3. That's a 4, which means he gets an arm wound. Next is Keza, and he gets a 10. And that is a old battle wound. Next one we have, what's his name? Gruul. And Gruul gets a 7, which is a full recovery. He had an arm wound, and he will heal that, so he is now up to 2 attacks once again. Now on to experience progressions. We have 5 models total that are able to get a promotion. 3 warriors and 2 heroes. The Iron Shield needs a 6 to become a hero, and he gets a 4. The Khazad Guard also needs a 6 to become a hero, doesn't get it. And the last warrior with two-handed weapon, 4, 5, 6. Oh, 6, he becomes a hero. Very nice. He will also get a point of fate.
and he needs a name. Next we have Mitsu. He's on the path of the warrior and he gets 7, and that is fight, so he has a +1 fight value. Lastly we have Trubo, and he is on the path of the ranger. He gets 6, and that is steady aim. And that is, he do not get the -1 penalty to hit if he have moved in the move phase. The dwarves are at max capacity troop-wise. They have 15 models, and they have 4 influence points, so they will use 3 of them to purchase healing herbs once again. Next up, we have the goblins' injury rolls. Only 3 warriors this time, starting from the left. That is a full recovery, and the middle one gets a full recovery, and the last one, full recovery. 3 of the goblins got enough experience to try to get promoted. The first one on the left, 4, 5, 6, something happens, and 1, so nothing. Gosh is on the path of the warrior, and he gets 8. He can choose either strength or defense, and he will go the aggressive route and choose strength, up to a strength of 4. Sork is on the path of the general, and he gets 6, and that is fight value. So he is now fight 3. Moria won the last fight, so they have 4 influence points and will roll for reinforcements, and they get 3, which is Moria Goblin with the spear. The goblins are now 18 models strong, and they still can have 2 more reinforcements. Now it's time for the next battle, Warg Riders against the Dead of Dunharrow. It's the same mission, and who will get priority first round? It will be the Warg Riders. At the end of the Warg's movement phase, they entered the board like this. 2 of them come from the southern board edge, 3 of them from the eastern, 4 of them from the western, and 3 of them from the northern. Only 1 Warg Rider was unable to enter. The Dead of Dunharrow was a little bit unlucky with their rolls, but they have 3 dead guys over here, 3 dead guys over there, and 1 guy on horse over there. 3 of them were unable to join. The Warg Riders got priority and moved their entire force towards the center objective. These 3 did a flanking maneuver trying to hold up the Dead of Dunharrow, and the last Warg Rider enters the battlefield from the southern board edge. The Dead of Dunharrow try to group up into 2 groups, so we have 3 over here and 1 reinforcement in behind. The horse linked up with Galad and the other 3, and 1 Warrior of the Dead came in from the northern board edge. Only 1 dead guy remains in reserve. Priority went to the Warg Riders, but Galad is making a heroic move to try to counter the charge of the Wargs, as they need to thin them out before the main force arrives. Arset is countering this with a might point of his own, so this is a roll-off. 4 to 6, it goes to the Dead of Dunharrow. And it does. They use their chance to get as many models into combat as possible over here. Only Snugug is able to move. And now it's the Warg's turn, and Snugug will of course move into combat with this guy. The Warg Riders continued their movement phase with 5 of them going down to support over here, trying to surround the dead guys. These 5 are making ready for receiving the dead guys from over here. The rest of the dead guys moved closer to the Warg Riders, ready to charge. The last Rider of the Dead came in from the western board edge and ready to support their comrades. I forgot that Snugug has to take a courage test to charge, and he will do that now. And he gets a 5, which is not enough, so he cannot charge this turn. By the way, the Wargs have less points than the Dead of Dunharrow, so they will receive 1 reroll during the game. The first fight is Arset versus a Rider of the Dead and another Warrior of the Dead. Arset will set the bar, and he gets a 1! And the dead ones gets 6, winning the fight.
The dead guys will strike at Arset, trying to kill the enemy hero. They need force to wound, and they get a 5 and a 6, so 2 wounds on Arset. And he has only 1 fate and 1 wound, so he is dead. Will the warg stay, or will the warg flee? Courage test. That is a 9, so he will stay. In the next fight, Galad and his friends will fight a Warg Rider, and the dead one sets the bar at a 4, and the Warg Rider gets 5, winning the fight. But Galad is a banner and can reroll 1 dice, and he gets a 1, so he still loses. The Warg Rider trying to wound Galad, needing 6s to wound. Nothing. Priority went to the Army of the Dead, but Snugug is using a point of might to call a heroic move, and this is then countered by Galad, spending his last point of might. 4 to 6 goes to Dunharrow, and it is a 6. Archer, which are going to charge in at this warg, will cast Transfix on him, and he needs a 3+. And he gets it. The Warg Rider is transfixed. And then he moves into combat. This Rider of the Dead moved into combat with these 2 Warg Riders to try to keep them from charging his comrades. And we have some fights over here as well, which we will resolve now. Scratch that, the Warg Riders have to move as well. Some of the wargs got scared and did not charge, but some of them did, so the combat image is a little bit different than we just saw. Let's start the combat phase. Starting over here, the Army of the Dead guy will be shielding, and he gets a 5, and the Warg Riders gets also 5. It's a tie, and 4 to 6 goes to the Dead of Dunharrow, and it does. In the next fight, Archer and a friend is fighting a Warg Rider, and the dead ones get a 3, and the Warg Rider gets a 2. Archer will hit the Warg Rider, and he needs a 4-up. And he doesn't get it, so the second dead one will do the same. And he gets it. Courage check on the Warg, and it makes it. So only the Rider dies. In the next fight, Ghoul is setting the bar, and he gets a 5, and the Warg Rider also 5, which means it's a tie. On the 4-up it goes to the dead, and it does not, it goes to the Warg Riders, needing 6s to wound Ghoul. Nothing. On the other side of the battlefield, the Rider of the Dead sets the bar against 3 Warg Riders, and he gets a 4, and the Warg Riders get 6. Needing 6s to kill, and they get it. The rider is dead, and the horse don't stick around. Next, we have a dead guy against Snugug, and the dead guy gets a 6, and Snugug 1. Going for the rider, needing force, and he gets it. Fate roll, he makes it. In the next fight, a dead guy against Arset's Warg, and the dead guy gets a 5, and the Warg gets a 6. The dead guy will re-roll. No, not good enough. The Warg will need 6s to wound. Nothing. The last fight is Galad and a friend against the Warg Rider with shield, and the dead one sets the bar at a 4. The Warg Rider gets 5. Galad will reroll because of his banner, and nothing. 6s to wound the dead guys, and he gets it. Galad needs to take a fate roll, which he fails. So Galad is dead. The Warg Riders got priority, but Arthur is using his only points of might to call a heroic move. And this is how they move. Now the Warg Rider has to take a courage test to see if he can charge, and he cannot, frozen in fear. The wargs are cowering, and this warg was able to charge, and Snugug also were able to charge, but the rest frozen in fear. And the last warrior of the dead moved into combat with this warg. Into the fight phase, this dead guy sets the bar at a 3, and the Warg Rider who charged in gets double attacks, wins the fight on a 6. The dead guy is knocked prone and Snugug needs 6s to wound, and he gets a 5, but he will use a point of might to turn that into a 6, killing the dead guy. In the next fight, one Warg against 2 dead guys, and the Warg sets the bar at a 5. And the dead ones gets 5. It is a roll-off. 4 to 6 goes to the good side. And it does. Needing 4s to kill the Warg. And gets 2 wounds. The Warg is dead. One dead guy against the Warg Rider. And the dead guy gets... Oh, that is cocked. Once again gets a 4. And the Warg Rider gets a 6. Needing 6s to wound? No. The next fight over here, the dead guy gets a 3 and the Warg Rider 5. 6s to kill? No. This fight over here, the 2 dead guys sets the bar at a 6. Strong start. And the Warg gets also 6. It's a tie. On a 4 to 6 goes to good. And it does. Needing 4s to kill the Warg. And gets it. The Warg is dead. And the last fight, the Rider of the Dead sets the bar at a 4. And the Warg Rider gets 5. 6s to wound. And he gets it! Fate point for Ghoul. He saves. Priority went to the Army of the Dead, and they charged into Arset's Warg over here. On the other side of the battlefield, they charged into every Warg Rider. Some of the Warg Riders did not make their courage check and had to stand still this turn. 2 of them got into combat though, and Snugug moved over to help out over here along with one other Warg Rider. Starting the combat phase, Arset's Warg sets the bar against a dead one at a 2, and the dead one gets a 1! The Warg needs 6s to kill, and he gets a 5. In the next fight, the Army of the Dead guy will be shielding, and he gets 2. That is not good, and the Warg Rider gets 5, winning the fight. He is knocked prone and gets 8 attacks against him. The Warg Riders need 6s to kill, and they get nothing! Starting over here, we have a dead guy against a Warg Rider, and the dead guy gets a 3, and the Warg Rider gets a 3. It's a roll-off. 4 to 6 goes to good, and it does not. Needing 6s to kill, and he gets it! This is a regular warrior, so he is dead. In the next fight, Ghoul will set the bar, and he gets a 3, and the Warg Rider gets also 3. It's a roll-off once again. 4 to 6 goes to good, and it does. Needing 4s to kill? No! And the last fight, the dead guy sets the bar at a 4. And the Warg Rider gets 6. 6s to kill? No. I don't think we took this fight, but the Warg Rider sets the bar at a 6. And the dead guy gets 3. The Warg Rider needed 6s to kill, and he gets it! This one is also dead. The Warg Riders got priority, but all of these Warg and Warg Riders failed their courage check and stood still. Over here, there was a different story, and combats are on to the movement phase of the Dead of Dunharrow. And the moves for the Dead of Dunharrow moved into combat with this Warg over here to even the odds, and over here we have a 2 against 1 Warg. Starting with this fight, Asgard is taking the first roll and gets a 5. Arthur will answer with a 2 and loses the fight. Arthur is knocked prone and Asgard needs 6s to wound him, and he gets nothing. 1-on-1 over here, and the Warg Rider sets the bar at a 2, and the dead gets 5. Going for the Rider, needing 4 up. And he gets it! The Rider is dead. Courage on the Warg. It flees the battlefield, so he's gone. And the last fight this turn, Arset's Warg sets the bar at a 2, and the dead guys get 5, winning the fight. 4s to kill, and they get it. The Warg is dead. I forgot this fight over here. The Warg Rider sets the bar at a 2, and the Rider of the Dead gets also 2. It's a roll off. 4 to 6 goes to good, and it goes to evil. 6 is to wound. Nothing. The Warg Riders got priority, but only 2 of them made the charge. This one over here and that one over there. On to the Dead of Dunharrow's movement phase. And they responded with 2 charges over here and a support over there. Starting with this fight, the Dead of Dunharrow sets the bar and gets 5, and the Warg Rider gets 6. Striking Archer, who is knocked prone, needing 6s to wound him. And he gets 1/6. Fate roll, saves. In the next fight, the Warg Rider sets the bar at a 1, and the dead guy gets a 2. Wonderful combats. 4 to kill the Rider, and no. And this fight's over here. The Dead of Dunharrow sets the bar at a 5, and the Warg Rider charged in, getting also 5. It's a roll-off. 4 to 6 goes to good, and it goes to evil. He's knocked prone, 4 attacks, needing 6s, and he gets it. The Dead of Dunharrow is dead. The Dead of Dunharrow are broken, so a roll of 1 or 2, the game ends. And it is a 5 and continues for another turn. The Warg Riders got priority, and some of them made their courage check. These 2 made it, and over here we have 2 against 1. On to the Dead of Dunharrow. Ghoul will take a courage check to see if he stands on the battlefield, and he does, and will charge into this guy. And the last courage check over here. No, wait, he doesn't have to do it because Ghoul is a hero and he made his courage check, so he is free to move. And he moved over here into Snugug. Let's start the combat phase. The Rider against a Warg Rider, and he gets a 4, and the Warg Rider gets 5. Needing 6s to kill Ghoul, and it doesn't get it. Snugug is fighting 2 dead guys, and he gets a 3, and the dead guys get 6 and 6. Easy win. Needing 4s to kill, going for Snugug, and he get it. And the Warg on the 4-up? No. Snugug has no fate left, and he is dead, but the Warg needs to take a courage check, and he pass. In the last fight, the army of the dead guy will be shielding, and the Warg Riders sets the bar at a 6. And the army of the dead guy gets a 3, losing the fight. He is knocked prone and 8 attacks against him, needing 6s. And they get it, he's dead. End of turn, 1 or 2, the game ends. And it continues for another turn. The army of the dead has 3 models left and charged into this Warg Rider and this Warg. These 2 Warg Riders got scared and couldn't move this turn. The other ones moved up closer to the objective to make sure they get it if the game suddenly ends. In the fight phase, the Rider of the Dead sets the bar and he gets a 5, and the Warg Rider gets also 5. Again, it's a roll-off. 4 to 6 goes to good, it goes to evil. 6s to kill? No. Might as well use their reroll for this, and they get it! And Ghoul has used his fate, so he's dead. And the last fight, the Dead of Dunharrow sets the bar at a 5, and the Warg gets a 2. 4s to kill the Warg? No! Will the game end? It does, and the Warg Riders are victorious. It's time for the war aftermath, and starting from the left with regular warriors, we get a full recovery, and the next one gets full recovery, and the Warg full recovery. Now on to the heroes. Snugug is first, and he gets a 9, which is just a scratch. He will re-roll this and gets another 9, and will re-roll again and gets a 5. That is a leg wound, but he only has this injury, so he can continue to fight. Next we have Arsets, and he gets a 12. He will get a full recovery and cure his leg wound. In addition to this, he will get 1 point of fate because he is protected by the Valar. For some reason, they wanted to protect an orc. 3 of the Warg Riders got enough experience to get a promotion, and we'll start with Arset continuing on the path of the Ranger. And he gets 8, and that is pinpoint shot. The hero may reroll to wound rolls of 1 when making shooting attacks. Now on to the warriors. On a roll of a 6, they get a promotion and becomes a hero. The left one gets... oh, that's cocked. Let's roll it again. And he gets a 3, and the other one gets a 3. So no promotion for these guys. The Warg Riders are 14 models strong and has enough influence points to recruit another Warg Rider. So they will do that now, rolling 1d6, getting a 5. That is a Warg Rider with throwing spear. So this warband cannot get any bigger. Now it's time for the war aftermath for the Dead of Dunharrow, starting with the warrior injury rolls. And from the left, the Rider of the Dead gets a 4 and has to miss the next game. The next one gets 6 and he has a full recovery. Next one, full recovery. And the middle one over here gets a full recovery. And the next to last gets a 7, full recovery. And the last one gets a 12, full recovery. On to the heroes. Galad gets a 5, and that is a leg wound. And Ghoul, the Rider of the Dead, gets a 7, which is a full recovery. 4 of the Army of the Dead guys got enough experience to try to get promoted. The Rider of the Dead will start. He needs a 6 to become a hero, and he does not. The next Warrior of the Dead needs a 6. No. And the next one needs a 6. He gets it. He became a hero. Lastly, we have Galad, which has chosen the path of the General, and he gets promoted with a 3 Inspiring Presence. He already has that one, so he can roll again. And he gets a 5, which is Rally to Me. The hero increases the range of their standfast by 3 inches to a maximum of 12. Well, not the most useful thing, but a upgrade nonetheless. The Army of the Dead do not have enough influence points to roll on the reinforcement chart, so this is it for now. See you next week. This is the updated scoreboard. This is it for now. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more exciting content like this. By subscribing, you'll stay up to date with our latest videos and be a part of our growing community. We appreciate your support, and it encourages us to create more valuable content. So go ahead, hit the like and subscribe buttons, and we'll see you in the next video.